I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, the podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Yeah.
We did it.
That's who we are.
That's
These
who
are
we
our
are.
identity. Don't
No
question
bits.
it. No bits.
Oops,
no bits
no bits.
today. Oops, no bits. No bits about. Those are our only names.
Is
we
it a
have
bit
no
if
other
you do
names.
bits about bits?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always
okay.
a bit. It's
always
me.
a
It's
bit.
always a bit. What are you talking about?
Well, before we get lost in the bit mines,
Yes.
Rachel, why don't you tell us who we're chatting with today?
Yes, I am tickled pink, pinker than normal, to introduce a dear friend, a leader in the school that I attend of wrestling, the one and only CJ Regina, aka the One Ring Dragon, Chris Ryan. Welcome to the show. Holy socks! How do you say fuck you to gravity so much? These are the questions I have. This is the only thing I need to know. What demon did you make a pact with to do the things you do?
Just sold my soul to the devil, said I want to be a professional wrestler. As far as gravity goes, I do it. One finger up, another one up, tongue out.
Nice.
Perfection.
The listeners couldn't see it, but there was a lot of middle fingering and tongue sticking outing.
It was
great.
the most metal Screen Snark will ever be.
It's true.
Frankly.
CJ, we're so excited to have you here, and we're going to talk more about your history with wrestling and all the cool stuff that you do in a little bit. But to start, as we always do, we're going to talk about the most recent things we have watched, and I am going to go first. And in the spirit of continuing to break the rules of our own show.
Yes, break the rules, break them all.
The most recent thing I watched actually was a short-form documentary made by a friend of mine. So Game Informer has been covering video games for a very long time, and very recently their video editor, the incredible Alex Van Aken, has branched out into video game documentaries, short-form ones, on their YouTube channel. They had done one earlier this year. They released one on Mino the Hollower, which is Yacht Club's brand new indie game. He went out to their studio and talked about the project and why it's different from Shovel Knight and all this stuff. It was great. And their most recent documentary, which I watched just yesterday, that just came out, is about exploring actual caves with the creator of Spelunky, one of the earliest indie games. Derek Yu. It's Derek Yu, and it's really cool. And so it's filmed and directed by Alex Van Aken, and the interview is conducted by Blake Hester. Blake Hester also did the write-up for it on GameInformer.com. And it was just, the title of the documentary is In Search of Perfection. And the reason that's the title of the documentary is because when Daniel Yu put out, I guess, the final, finger quotes, version of the first Spelunky, a lot of people called it the perfect game. It was a modern roguelike that we'd not really seen before. It was an exploration game. It seemed to be like a lot of people consider the perfect interpretation of what a small little indie game should be like. Of course, it's gone on to go to Xbox Live Arcade, and now it's on every modern platform. There was a sequel that came out, I think, last year or 2 years ago. Like, it's been around for a while. And so a big part of this exploration of Spelunky was to, like, find out what Derek, 10 years later, what does Derek think of Spelunky now? What does he think of people referring to it as perfection? Does he agree? And just, like, how he... like what went into making this game happen and all the steps along the way. It's, I believe, about 17 minutes long. 17 minutes long. And it's just a really so I love anything that explores how video games are made, because it's such a secretive process still. Double Fine, the creators of Psychonauts and Psychonauts 2 and a bunch of other things, just put out a 32-part documentary for free on YouTube called Psy Odyssey, and it's about they literally filmed for 7 years on the road to making Psychonauts 2. and it just came out. And I'm on episode like 6 or 7. I plan on watching the whole thing, so I'll probably bring it here when I'm done. And I'm a big Tim Schafer fan, so
Yeah, I've definitely sunk more hours into watching histories about games than I have playing actual games.
yeah.
It's so fascinating
Especially
how
since it's
how
so
stuff
different.
how stuff occurs, you know,
Yeah.
like ugh.
And so this was really well done. It was really well filmed. This is the second in what I hear is many short form documentaries. And I just have to give a lot of credit to not only Alex, who is an incredible talent and has done some great video work for Game Informer even long before the documentary started coming out, but also just how it's framed, because they literally go spelunking while talking about Spelunky, and it's pretty neat. And they do like part of the interview inside the cave. It's just really fascinating. I love learning about the process. You know, as I've started watching this, the Psy-Odyssey documentary, like when they announced Psychonauts 2, they were planning on partnering with a publisher, and then things went wrong. Like everyone knows that like it got announced, things went wrong. They thought they weren't going to make it. Then Xbox bought Double Fine, and they were able to put it out and ended up being a huge success. And famously, the first Psychonauts wasn't a huge success. It was critically acclaimed, but like didn't sell very well. And so just following that process and like what people are thinking and how it works, and seeing the inner workings of a video game studio and who's actually working on what project. Like this documentary about the creator of Spelunky is a little smaller scope, but it's still cool to hear this person who made Spelunky in 2008. Oh, so it's not even, it's more than 10 years. My math is very bad, but like that's a long time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just finding out how this like he seemed very zen. Derek wasn't jaded by the process. They didn't talk much about the sequel, which from what I've heard sold fine, but wasn't like the huge success that the first game was. But I think it was on a different level. You know, Spelunky was originally practically a Flash game in the sense that it was this freeware game that he put out in 2008. And then when it got picked up by Xbox Live Arcade for the 360, it became this huge hit because like it reached so many people. And it's fun to see this creator still be humbled by that experience and not feel jaded by it or wronged by it. It's a fascinating doc. If you've got 17 minutes and can hop onto YouTube, I highly recommend it. I think it's really worth watching, especially if you want to know. The reason I got into video game podcasting is because I wanted to connect with indie creators. I love AAA titles just like anybody else. I'm a Nintendo fanboy and all of that, but like connecting with people who like 1-person, 3-person teams that make games is always more fascinating to me, because I didn't even think it's possible for one person to make a video game, right? It just, to me, feels like magic. And so the more I can learn about that process, it's always really incredible.
Yeah, video games is art.
Yeah.
Video games is art.
Yeah.
That's what we say here.
I'm glad
That sounds just delightful.
Yeah, I'm glad we're finally at a point where people are realizing that video games are an art form. In many respects, it's probably the most complicated art form of all, because so much hour goes into it. You have to work out so many bugs. So many games that are pushed back before the release date because they want to get it out on time. You know, just you can always encounter a glitch that could just break the entire game as a whole, just ruin the experience for it. Yeah, it's like what was it? Miyamoto says it best. Like, a late game's only late until it ships. Bad game is bad forever. So there's a lot of pressure on these developers, especially if you're an indie person that's getting into this for the first time. So yeah, I'm just glad we're at a point in history now where video games are being treated with so much more respect, getting so much more attention from like big studios, like we saw The Last of Us and how well that's taken off. We got probably some more on the way. We got the Mario movie coming out soon, which that's going to be a big hit. Regardless, I don't know how the movie's going to turn out, but that's definitely going to be a big hit. That's because Mario's essentially like the Mickey Mouse, the Bugs Bunny, the Superman of video games. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah,
I think you're totally right though. Like we talked about this when I brought the Sonic movie on, and I'm a fan of both Sonic movies. Like regardless of how Sonic fans feel about those films, kids loved them and kids went to see them. And like I think it's the same thing with the Mario movie. I think based on the most recent trailer, I think the Mario movie is going to be fun. Like I'm not really concerned with its quality, but it doesn't matter because kids much younger than us are going to go see it and enjoy it because it's by the same studio that made Minions and Despicable Me, and they make, whether you like the movies or even think they're of quality, they are entertaining often. And so like that's sometimes all it requires.
It looks so pretty. Like,
It does.
It looks really good. To speak from the animation perspective of it, animation is starting to look real good again, and I am here for it.
Yeah, I'm not
and
the I'm not the biggest fan of Illumination Studios. I'll be honest, their movies just don't do it for me. I like the first Despicable Me fine. Aside from that, like most of their movies just don't really do anything for me. But even like if they're not good from like a story character perspective, they are all gorgeously animated. So I can't argue with that. They look pretty. This looks like the games, much more than the '93 movie ever did. But it is a very pretty movie. I don't know if it's going to be good, but it is very pretty. I will give them that.
No, I agree completely. I think it's so, and like the head of Illumination has said that they actually like stepped up the quality of their animation. Like they've always been looking to improve, but Mario is the first of many movies where they're like kind of at that next level of creating within the animation field. So it should be interesting. But yeah, I think that if you're a video game fan and you've not checked out either of the two documentaries that they've put out on Game Informer's YouTube channel, it's just the Game Informer YouTube channels where you can find it. I highly recommend it because I think if you want to know more about games, this is one of the many ways you can. And while game studios become more and more transparent as we become more and more online, I think little things like this where we get to hear from the creators directly from their mouth, like how they feel, what it was like, what the process was, I think it's just better for everybody, right? Like we have so much of that for movies and music and books and all of that. To have it for video games too just feels like a no-brainer.
Yeah, just like let us have a living record of these things because they, as much as any of these other pieces of media, shape the culture and like are part of the conversation around what we're doing and where we are. You know,
Totally.
It's art and it's all important and it's all part of how we're understanding the world we inhabit. But if you had to understand the world that Matt inhabited with this documentary by using 3 words and 3 words only, how would you describe, what was it called again?
So In Search of Perfect was
In Search of Perfect. Don't use any of those words that I just said. In search of or perfect.
I guess I would say knowledge, fascination, brilliance.
Knowledge, fascination, and brilliance. I love that.
So again, it's In Search of Perfect, exploring caves with Spelunky's creators. Definitely go check it out. It's definitely worth it. It is again on YouTube on the Game Informer channel.
Hey, you like oral histories? You like video games? You like caves? This sounds like it's got it all.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
Exactly.
Go check it out.
Well, Rachel,
yes.
Now we move on to you, my friend. What is the most recent thing you have watched?
Guess who's back on anime bullshit? Here we go. Now, I'm gonna say this one isn't the same level as like the weirdly horny anime that I've been watching as of late. I watched the first season of the latest Gundam series, Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury.
Ooh.
I
Nice.
was so intrigued by this one that I watched it subtitled first.
Wow.
And honestly, I'm very glad the dub is out because I'm now watching the dub and I'm going, I didn't understand a lot of this. But it's like, even despite that, I was so keyed into this. I don't know how much to talk. Have both of you seen it?
So I haven't seen the new one yet. I'm a big Gundam fan. I've seen most of the series. And
I
maybe
haven't
not in
seen
their
it. This is my
entirety.
first Gundam, so
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how to compare it to other Gundam.
Okay.
CJ, have you seen it?
I'm not the most knowledgeable person in Gundam. I haven't watched an entire series, but the closest knowledge I have is Gundam Wing Zero, the one that has like Epion and Sex Marquis. That's about the closest I got. But like, if you
Cool.
ask me, like, what is the plot to this? Who are these characters? Like, not really. But I've
Yeah.
been really wanting to get into Gundam lately, so hopefully you can sway me to watch this new one.
Oh boy. So I didn't feel like I needed any information about the world of Gundam, and from what I understand, based on sort of like my cursory like touching in with the Gundam community, this one does a lot of different things from your typical Gundam. It takes place on an interplanetary school. So like in this world, like humans have like spread out across the solar system. They're oppressing the people from Earth. So like
Of course.
political shit, you love to see it.
It's Gundam staple.
And
Sounds in tune.
it's a school where arguments, business deals, marriages are decided via dueling with your mobile suits.
Amazing.
So if you enjoyed Revolutionary Girl Utena or Neon Genesis Evangelion or the sweet little queer baby girls, you'll like this one. And you'll like it, and then in the last 10 minutes it will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Sounds like Ava to me. That's
Yep.
pretty much Ava in a nutshell.
Because it's got you know how in Utena it only deals with adults, like
Yeah.
from the fringes, you know, from like this cursory space until like the end where she's in the car with and you just are like, oh, I'm haunted. It haunts me in the same way that scene in Utena haunts me.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, so it's this young girl, Suletta Mercury, who is from Mercury, comes in to this school situation, ends up getting in a duel like on her first day, and
Like you do.
ends up winning the duel. So like it is
Oh yeah.
sort of built around like the dynamic between her and the prize of this duel. I'm gonna wreck this name. I heard it so many times. Murone,
Okay.
who's like the daughter. Again, this is a very like corporations are pretty much the government kind of world. And it's just sort of like what they do in the face of all of this. And also, you can have mobile suits in this world, but they can't be Gundams. So
Wait.
yeah.
Run that one back again?
Yeah, don't ask me to run that one again because I can't explain it better than they can have mobile suits, but they can't be Gundams.
Okay.
It kind of explains it like that the Gundams hurt the pilots. And so they like the government corporation situation shut them down.
Okay.
That prologue will fuck you up too, by the way. It's dark, but it's also so funny. And I've got characters that I'm like, no harm shall come to this character. And just the way they bloom and how complex they are, it's really lovely. Like, whether or not you like Gundam, I think this is just a really good anime to check out. And I'm already loving the English dub cast. You've got Yor Forger as Murone. You've got Aletta from Restaurant to Another World as fucking Suletta Mercury. Just this nervous, like, neurodivergent angel who I love and fear in equal measure. Yeah, I love her. I love Suletta. I would do anything for Suletta. I am haunted.
Don't get too
It
attached.
rules. It rules. Oh gosh, it's so good. Just the Earth House at the school they're just my precious angel babies. I want no harm to come to them, but I know it's probably gonna happen. Cause this one goes like, let's have a fun little romp about building a business or something, and then the next episode's like, it's war. It's wild. I'm struggling real hard to like get to the meat and potatoes of it because I don't want to rob anybody of the opportunity to like go back and rewatch it and go, oh, I know too much now. I've seen too much.
Well, and you said that this is a new one, right? This only came out fairly recently.
Yeah, this came out super recently. Yeah, so there's only one season, and I'm I'm holding my breath for season 2. It is
Amazing.
It's incredible. It looks beautiful. I love the robots fighting in space. Looks great. The
Has
character
it made
designs.
you want to watch more Gundam?
No.
Okay, fair.
I feel
What's
like I
it
should
do?
be quoting like the Gundam series, the one that Sex Marquee was on. I feel like, Rachel, you need to hear this quote right now. Don't go getting too attached or parting will hurt.
Yeah.
That's just
pretty
way too
much.
appropriate. I just had to say that, and you just made me think of that line.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you like to see really wonderfully designed characters with a lot of personality have trauma?
I mean, that's anime in a nutshell.
Which from Mercury.
Yeah,
Go for
no.
it. Go forth. Enjoy. There is animated blood in case anybody has a problem with that. So do not think they're skimping on the violence. It's happening.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with
Explosions
that.
and
One of my
shit.
favorite animes is
Yeah.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
There you go.
Oh man, yeah, there's plenty of blood in that.
Yeah.
Still not over season 4. You want a real traumatic moment? Like just looking at that.
Yeah, yeah. I've only seen the original Full Metal. I still need to watch Brotherhood, but that was also full of plenty of trauma.
Yep.
So I can
Brotherhood's
only
amazing,
imagine.
man. I can't recommend it enough.
It's great.
Yeah, it's been on my list for a while. I'll get to it eventually. Well, Rachel, if you had to explain, if you had to describe Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, in just 3 words, and you could not use any of those words I
Yeah.
just said, because it was a lot of them, what 3 words would you use to describe this anime?
I already said him. I am haunted.
There you go. I am haunted.
Perfect.
Doesn't always have to be a sentence, but that one worked.
I am, and if you watch it, you will be too. You will be haunted.
This is the best worst pitch for an anime ever. Like it's great, but
in
also
the best way though,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it
I get it.
Yeah.
Watch it,
yeah,
but don't watch it.
watch it, but know that like it's gonna hurt. You're
Yeah.
gonna hurt, and you're gonna go the fuck.
I mean, the best animes are like that, though. The
Yeah.
reason I love Cowboy Bebop as much as I do is because the last episode is just crushing.
Yeah. Again, that sort of anime idea of adults with agendas using children as like moving pieces in their
Right.
like larger games. Like that's why I feel like it's very like Evangelion in that regard. Also
Get
like
it.
big robots that
Sure.
shoot lasers.
Who doesn't like big robots?
Who doesn't like big robots and underlying subtext about oppression and caste systems and whether or not parents own their children enough to dictate their lives, like
just
there
that.
you go. But then you've got Suletta and Mirane just like vibing, like
Yeah.
Just
Who
another
doesn't love
day
anime?
in the world of anime.
yeah.
Well, now it's our guest turn. CJ, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Tell us, what is the most recent thing you have watched?
All right, well, I've been going back and forth between a couple of shows. Been watching Last of Us, been watching Mandalorian next hour, but I really recently just rewatched the first season of The Legend of Korra. And
Nice.
this is a show that I feel like I kind of underestimated for a while or took for granted. I watched it a couple of years ago when it was on Blu-ray, and I remember liking it, and I think this is similar to a lot of experiences people had coming off of Avatar: The Last Airbender, like arguably the greatest animated TV show of all time. That's tough to do. Not
Yeah,
gonna act
sure.
like it's easy. That's a very tall order to meet. So I think, like a lot of other people, I felt like I was, I guess, forgiving of it, even if it wasn't living
Right.
up to what Last Airbender was. But I will say, looking back on it, I swear I must have blacked out a lot of times while I was watching it because it is so much better than I gave credit. I'm only on season 1. I want to rewatch the rest of the series, but I'm just going by season 1. But I will say, from my recollection, I remember liking season 1. I remember really liking season 2, so I'm excited to see how that holds up. I didn't think the latter seasons, 3 and 4, stuck with me the most, but again, I feel like I was like not giving it as fair of a chance as I should have. But I am really excited to check out the rest of the series. But just sticking to season 1, Yeah, and what I really appreciate the most out of it is that it doesn't feel like they're trying to recapture Avatar: The Last Airbender. This feels very much they're trying to do their own thing. They're introducing new characters. If we see older characters or familiar elements, it serves a purpose in this. Like we
Yeah.
have Dante Bosco coming back to voice his son, General Iroh, and even if you don't know the show, like you still catch on. You get what this dude is about. And again, we see like flashbacks to when the Avatar team were adults and how they were looking over the government in Central City and how that ties into Korra's story, which that's the best thing you could do for this type of stuff is that you don't rely heavily on nostalgia. And if you're going to incorporate old elements, it has to help elevate the new show. You can't just like watch something and just constantly have like something wait in your face and be like, remember this? Remember this? Wasn't this cool? Like, no. Like after a while, you kind of forget about the original show after a while and you take it at face value. I was really getting into these characters. I loved Korra. Mako's cool. Bolin's very funny. Asami, I really like this. I really underestimated Asami's whole story, the connection she had with her father, and how she ties into all this. Her character had all the reason to go in one direction, which I won't give it away, but she had a point where she can go easily in one direction and it would have been understandable, and she does the right thing. She does the right thing, and man, just like the way everything just flows and the way they beautifully update everything, like new setting and everything, the technology's up. They they evolve the concept of bending. There's a whole concept about energy bending in this, which I won't give it away. If you saw like the final episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, then you have an idea of what it's about. That's what it was. And there is a conflict that deals with that and goes into like the spirituality of it and where that came from and how it works, and showing all the pros and cons about what it's like having this type of power, being able to bend the elements, being able to shoot lightning, being able to control the ground, being able to bend blood, which comes back in this in a very, very disturbing way. I will not dare ruin this for anyone who does it, but let's just say when we get to the backstory of a certain character, it is so uncomfortable and is so like just God, I don't even have the word for it. It is just like so well done the way they do this and how it connects to all this and the way they really like give you a character where you see where they're coming from, but at the same time, like you don't want to see them win. And which I absolutely love when they do this with villains, when you can give them sympathy, when you can give them like a purpose for why they do the things that they do. Now, granted, I do miss like seeing a villain just be a villain. This is why I love a lot of old Disney villains like Maleficent, Scar, Jafar, so on. But I'm very much open to making a character more complex and interesting, having them be more of an antagonist than just a villain. Like, just for good example, I'll say I saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish not that long ago, and we have an antagonist, and we also have a villain. We have one where you
Yeah.
see where they're coming from, and the other one where they're just being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole, and both of them are great. That was like a great
Yeah.
balance. And as far as Korra goes, they did such an amazing job doing this, and it's just got me gay to catch up on the rest of this series. I'm just so excited to revisit all this, especially see how season 2 holds up, because that's the season that stayed with me the most. So I'm really excited to see how well that ages.
Yeah, it's a great show. I think what's interesting about Avatar, like, so I went back and started watching the original Avatar with my spouse, and that the animation has still aged well, but like it's not HD. It's square aspect
Yeah,
ratio. Like it
I
just,
am charmed by that square aspect ratio, though.
but it,
Yeah.
but
Oof.
it just doesn't like when the last thing you've watched is Korra, which is just beautiful HD, like newer animation. It's so different. But like, I think you make a good point, CJ. The thing about Korra that I loved, I never saw all of it. I think I saw the first couple of seasons, is that Korra, like Aang, doesn't have his memory, doesn't know how to do anything, can be a prodigy, but doesn't really know how. Whereas Korra is the opposite. Korra is like confident and like zealous and like wants to like take charge, like is just the opposite kind of character as an avatar than Aang was. And I think that's why I think the sequel show works, is because they approached a ton of stuff from different sides, but you still told a similar kind of story, right? You're still telling the story of the Avatar, but Legend of Korra just handles it in such a different way. You get to see some of the characters grow up, and you get to see, like, it's a really fascinating take. And I think I could understand, CJ, why going to it straight from Avatar, you would be like, I don't know about this, because it's just so different, right? Like that was the point.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a post an industrial revolution, so it's no longer like pastoral, no sweeping landscapes. It's very urban, like even down to like the environs you're dealing with is completely a shift. Like, ugh, and emotionally, I
Oh my
was
God.
saying this. I think we were talking about this at school, CJ, where I was like, I emotionally struggle starting Korra just because I sit and I go, oh right, this means Aang's dead, and I get so sad for like
Yeah.
the first like few episodes where I'm just like, but I miss Aang. I love Aang.
Yeah.
I love him so much. He's
Yeah, it's
precious
definitely
to
tough
me.
because like I love that roster, like Aang,
yeah.
Katara, Sokka, Toph, Zuko, like they're all just such great characters. So
Mhm.
being introduced to a new cast can be jarring the same way like every time you watch a new Gundam series, you have to get used to the new characters. But yeah, when you have great characters and you got great writing and when you give them such relatable struggles, like you can forget about them easily and you could just like get to know them as they are, and you can grow just as strong of a connection with them. And that's the other thing I really love about Korra, is that her journey is the complete opposite of Aang's, where Aang was very much Aang never wanted to be the Avatar. Korra did want to be the Avatar. Korra is
Yeah.
basically, she's adapting faster. By the beginning of the first episode, she's already mastered 3 elements. But Aang, it takes the entire series. He's hesitant to learn firebending because he hurt Katara at one point. He tried to swear that off. And that's the great thing about Aang, is that he has to grow up, but for different reasons. Korra is very hot-headed. She has to learn about maturity. She has to learn about like compromise and working with others, not having to just do everything yourself, and understanding how it feels to have a low point. Like that's very much what Korra's all about. Aang's already had that low point, and his story is just about coming to grips with all that. He doesn't want to let the world down because he's been gone for 100 years, and he feels so much weight, and he's just a kid. He has all this weight on his shoulders, and it's just terrifying for him. Korra's very hot-headed. Aang is just terrified. He's very concerned. He's pretty much just trying to hide that for his childlike innocence and so on. Where Korra's coming at it from like a teenage approach, like I want to grow up, I want to see the world, I want to be the hero, I want to be what I'm built up to be. And both of them they have to learn through different ways. They have to mature in their own different ways, and very much that's welcome. That could have just been the same, like having to learn all this again. But no, we have a very powerful antagonist from the beginning. Her story is more of an emotionally driven story, where Aang is a more power driven story, I think, is the best way to compromise with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I
I think
feel that.
broadly that sounds right. Like if you're just kind of looking at it at like a 10,000 foot view, for sure. Yeah. Well, CJ, if you had to describe The Legend of Korra, the first season at least, in just 3 words, what 3 words would you use to describe this series?
In a phrase, in just one phrase, I will just say, give it time.
Give
Give
it
it time.
time.
I like that.
like that.
That's good.
It'll feel jarring, but
Ooh.
trust me, you will grow to
Feeling
love
that-
this. Even
feeling
if it's
that,
not
Bree.
immediate, over time, you'll appreciate it.
Love it.
Love that. Awesome. Well, now, first of all, thank you for that.
Thanks. Yeah.
We're
Oh,
so
I
excited to have you
love
here
Korra.
and talk about wrestling. Obviously, for those who don't know, CJ is a fellow wrestler at the school that Rachel is a part of. I got to see CJ wrestle only a few weeks ago. Was that only a few weeks ago?
That was like last month.
Yeah,
Last month?
Not,
Okay.
That's
not
time.
even.
It's a lake.
Not even a month ago.
Yeah, it's like 3 weeks ago, I think. But you're a fabulous performer, high flyer. Talk a little bit about your relationship with wrestling. Obviously, you are a fan, but was wrestling and doing it something you've always wanted to do? Is it something you discovered later? I know Rachel came to it much later in life. Were you someone who was like
late.
obsessed with wrestling since you were a kid, or did you find it later?
Professional wrestling has definitely been something that I've always carried with me. I only started watching it when I was 8 years old. I turned on the June 16th, 2005 edition of SmackDown. The only prior knowledge I was going off of was the SmackDown versus Raw video game. The only wrestler I really could immediately recognize just from playing the game was The Undertaker. So I turned on that edition of SmackDown, and funny enough, The Undertaker was main eventing the show that night. He was facing JBL, and I
Hell yeah.
saw that video game entrance that immediately hooked me. I saw it in real life on TV, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, this is a real thing. People actually do this. Like, wow, this is amazing. And from there, I just kept coming back every single week. And sometime after my 9th birthday, I just, at some point, I want to say it was probably around WrestleMania 22, when Rey Mysterio won the World Heavyweight Championship, that I decided I'm doing this. This is what I'm meant to do. If a guy like Rey Mysterio can do this, I can do this. A guy who's about the same height as me, someone who I definitely adopted a couple of moves from, including the 619, which I call the 718, because I'm from Staten Island. That's the area code.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, professional wrestling has just been the one thing that's defined me for my entire life. All throughout middle school and high school, I was known as that kid who always wore the wrestling t-shirts. By the time I was a senior in high school, anytime there was a big school like gathering or whatever, like just I did our spring musical, and when we were doing the curtain call, I came out doing the Daniel Bryan yes chant, followed by the old Triple H like bow. So I just got this rep of being like the yes guy, and I was very much just a huge Daniel Bryan fan, and I just loved doing wrestling mannerisms. That one stuck around, and I got so well known as that. By the time I graduated high school, when I went onto that stage to get my diploma, the entire auditorium started doing it.
That's amazing. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, one of the coolest moments of my life, easily.
I'm curious, like, when you started training, I love watching people wrestle, right? It's not a thing physically that I think I can do, but I love watching it. It's like a magic trick to me. But I'm curious, when you first started training, what was the most surprising thing about stepping into the ring? Like, from how you hit the mat to, like, how bouncy or not bouncy. Like, what was the most surprising thing about finally stepping into a ring and starting to wrestle?
Well, the big thing is just like learning all of like the basic training wheels and stuff, learning how to take a bump for the first time. Not necessarily the surprise of doing it, but how it felt was definitely like a whole other experience that I've never experienced before. This is not like falling on the floor. This is not like falling on some asphalt. This felt so like alien. But you know, after a time, like it just becomes a part of you. Like you just keep hitting the floor, you keep hitting that mat, and after a while, you don't even think about it anymore. Now it just feels as common as just walking down the street. It's the best pretty much analogy I can give to that. So, but yeah, as far as I will say, learning all the basics like the Colorado tie up, the arm wringer, so on. It's one thing to watch it on TV. To actually do it is a whole other species. You really just like you start doing it and you start thinking, oh, that this is how they do this? Okay. And then suddenly you can start watching wrestling and you start watching how they're doing it. It's like, oh, I see it now. Yeah. So that's definitely like been the most fun thing to do, just watching how someone does something and being able to like try to replicate it yourself. So that's definitely something that really stayed with me during my first couple months, and just I never take it for granted anymore.
I love that. I mean, that's funny. I was going to ask you, like, we often ask other guests in certain fields, can you, after learning about a thing, continue to watch a thing that's represented in, like, a fantasy? And so, like, for me, like, that answers my question. Like, do you deconstruct wrestling now that you know so much about it? And the answer is yes. I feel like you probably can't even turn that off, right? It's just kind of how your brain works now with the information you have.
Yeah, to me now, watching wrestling is very much the same way I digest watching a movie or a TV show or playing a video game. And to me, the moves in wrestling are very much like listening to dialogue. Where you establish something later on, and at some point in the movie, it comes back. You tease something at the very beginning, and then you see it come back. It's like, oh, that had a purpose. That had a reason behind it. You see somebody like work a certain limb because their finishing move could be a crossface or it could be the ankle lock, and you're like, oh, I see what they're doing here. I see what they're trying to get across.
Foreshadowing in wrestling.
Yeah, very much. Wrestling's a lot of foreshadowing, and to me, that's just fun. Of course, I want to watch wrestling and just like take it at face value, but yeah, it's tough to do like when you try to listen to how the audience is reacting to everything, seeing what's connecting with the audience, what's not connecting with the audience, like why is this person doing this thing? Like a good wrestling match is something that you could just like take at face value, but it is fun to see why it works. It's fun to watch something and figure out why this worked for you. You watch it one time and you're like, oh, that was enjoyable. Then you watch it again and you're like, why did I enjoy this? Oh, that's why I enjoyed this so much. And it's all about just seeing things from a different perspective and being able to do that type of stuff and talk about it with like Jake and Cyrus and just we have Hot Sauce Tracy Williams now. Just being able to like get different perspectives on this type of stuff and see the many ways that's being interpreted. Just it's a lot of fun. Anyone who says professional wrestling is not an art form, yeah, just really give it a chance. You'll really see like there is a lot more to it than just seeing like scantily clad people. There's so much more to it.
For sure. I mean, I think something that was fun for me to realize along with Rachel was how much burlesque is in wrestling. And how much wrestling is burlesque. And like other burlesque, like, of course, Bunny Buxom for years did a wrestling style burlesque show. Like, and it's after that I was like, oh my God, they are so much the same. The performance, the physicality.
Yeah, you gotta get a gimmick.
You gotta get a gimmick.
Gotta get a gimmick.
Yeah, no, you could be the best wrestler ever, but if nothing stands out about you as a person or as a character, you're not going anywhere. This is what people look for. They want flash. You have to be as good on the microphone or in pictures as you are in the ring.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really interesting to look at it that way because as a kid it's like you're in for the fantasy of it. You don't, in the same way that like when you're in a room with puppets as a kid you don't see the puppeteer, right? You just see the puppet, you just see the performance.
I just see the puppet. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
I love
of course
puppets.
Even now, but like that, I think there's a little bit of that with wrestling, right? Like for example, like I boo at a bad guy, a heel in a wrestling match, but for all I know, that person like is really a really sweet, right? Like we know about we know about all of the stuff that goes into the magic of it, and we choose to accept it, the kayfabe, if you will, the performance, right? And for some people it's not a performance. Some people are just themselves in the ring, but like a lot of it is very much a performance, and I think it's fascinating once you really understand that.
Yeah, just like I've been playing a bad guy a lot lately at Pro Wrestling Magic and at the last student show that we did at T2T, very much just our rehearsals pretty much. I find myself being in the bad guy role more than I ever thought I could be, which is fine because I've always wanted to be a bad guy. I've always kept saying, if they just give me a shot, I could be the most obnoxious, hateable, face punchable guy on the entire card. And yeah, just hearing audiences boo me, like that is so rewarding to me. But sure. Above all, like I know to be respectful of people. I never take like the fans for granted. I never take the company I have for granted. So as rude as I can be out there, I try to be a good person out there. I know it takes a lot of effort to be a nice person, but I don't want to be lazy. I just don't want to be lazy.
Yeah, I think it's also with this particular sort of like ARG storytelling, when a wrestler is mean to you, you don't take it as like they're actually being cruel. You take it as we're still playing the game.
Right.
The game that you're a bad guy, like one of the things, I don't mean to answer CJ's question about what surprised you, but what really surprised me was like how much like the bad guys on like the surface level are kind of like the leaders,
Yeah.
of it, like they kind of are the ones who like set like the match, they set the speed, they're kind of like more in charge, and that's really cool because like you kind of got to be a respectful good person for other people to trust you with their bodily safety.
Yeah, it's very good. A lot of times, like you say that, and I thought of two really good examples: Lion King and Aladdin. The first characters that talk are, well, I mean, not Aladdin, but the first character you really see in Aladdin is Jafar. The first character who talks in Lion King is Scar, and immediately you figure out what these guys are about, what they're trying to do, what's at stake, and like they're up to no good. So it can very much set the mood. You bring that up, and I think that's a good way of coming at it. I don't mind if you answer a question for me because I definitely want. I love hearing like you've been doing this for a year, and I just love seeing like how much knowledge you're picking up and how differently you're seeing this. So yeah,
Thanks.
don't be afraid to like answer the
No,
question.
I was just like, I found a lot of things surprising, but I also
Yes.
came into wrestling as like, I started watching AEW like 3 months ago. Should I learn to wrestle?
Yeah, no. Yeah, there's so much more than what meets the eye. And professional wrestling, I compare it to the Wizard of Oz. You never want to see the man behind the curtain. You see the man behind the curtain, the illusion's ruined, and all the magic's gone.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So we talked a little bit about your history with watching wrestling. Did you have favorite wrestlers growing up? Is there a wrestler that's still your favorite to this day? I'm always curious what wrestlers people gravitate to. Like for me, it was The Undertaker because I was a goth, so duh. And Scott Hall, may he rest in peace. He was like just so charismatic and so fun and tall as hell. And like I just related. I'm curious, were there any wrestlers that were like real big standouts for you?
Well, one of your answers answered your question. The Undertaker,
Yeah.
still to this day, all time favorite. Love rewatching his stuff. Every time he makes that entrance, I am so captivated. That's what drew me into wrestling as a whole. Um, I don't try to mimic a lot of his style. At the
Right.
very least, I'll try to throw a punch because like he is a very tall guy. I can't do a lot of the stuff that at the very least I could probably do an elbow drop or mimic a couple of his strikes. But yeah, so I wouldn't be who I am now if I had never seen The Undertaker. But outside of that, I was always a huge John Cena fan. I always got bullied for being a John Cena fan. A lot of people that tell me he was overhyped. But if you're smart, you know John Cena is he's the face. He is one of the greatest of all time. One of the best on the mic, one of the best in the ring, one of the greatest storytellers ever. Um, I really in my as I got to my teenage years, I started seeing Bryan Danielson when he got called up to NXT. Immediately, I felt a connection to that guy. Still to this day, even if I can only catch one match on AEW Dynamite, I will go straight to the Bryan Danielson match. I've never seen him have a bad match. He is the kind of guy that could do no wrong. That freaking Iron Man match he just had with MJF, one of the greatest I've ever seen.
The promo he cut after it.
Oh
Holy
man, great,
shit!
great stuff. I don't know what his future holds. If I don't think this is going to be his last match. But if we are starting to see like the end of the run, if this is really like his last year, he said it was going to be his last year. So if this is the start of the end of the road, then what a hell of a way to go out. Also, I also really love Shawn Michaels, another guy who can do no wrong. Never seen a bad match out of him. Triple H, I love watching. I love trying to mimic a lot of his heel style. Same goes for Randy Orton. Just such a great bad guy. I love how methodical maniacal Randy Orton can be, and how he works slow, but he makes it mean everything. He's the perfect encapsulation of less means more. Um, Kenny Omega, I also really love. Like, he's just like an all around solid wrestler. Like, probably the guy I enjoy probably watching most who's never been in the WWE. I know he had maybe a dark match here and there, but like, yeah, like as far as guys who have never been there, Kenny Omega is probably at the top. Rey Mysterio, I definitely gotta acknowledge, because I mimicked so much of his style after him. When I got assigned the Jose Salvador gimmick at the beginning of my career, a luchador character, Diet El Generico. Well, I'll also talk about it in a little bit, but I was also mimicking a lot of Ray's move sets and his mannerisms. Sami Zayn, love this guy. Just outside the ring, I love how sweet of a person he is, and in the ring, another all-around solid competitor. He has got such a great thing going on right now. Going from the honorary Uce back to his NXT roots, just God cannot praise enough of that guy. And also, as far as the women go, I do want to acknowledge some women. Becky Lynch, probably still my favorite to this day to watch. Bailey, I absolutely love, whether she's the hugger, whether she's like the Karen, I guess, as people are calling her. Charlotte's great. When I was a teenager, I absolutely loved AJ Lee. Had such a huge crush on her. But I also really admired like her character work and just how well she was really pushing what women can do on TV, really showing like women can have like such engaging characters and really like hold their own as well as men get. Like women can be the main attraction. I feel like when AJ came along, I fully started seeing that because like wrestling at scene at the time was mostly a sausage fest. Women weren't really given that much, except on the indies. But yeah, as far as mainstay goes, definitely AJ. I also gotta acknowledge Soraya or Paige, whatever you want to call her. She's great. Trying to think of one more actually, as far as the women goes. Alexa Bliss, I'll definitely talk about. Man, there's
Willow
one more.
Nightingale.
Rhea Ripley. Yeah, Rhea Ripley. I definitely gotta acknowledge. She is so goddamn cool. I actually got to meet her at an Evolve event right before like the pandemic happened, or I should say, as it was starting. Like this was like less than a week before we went into lockdown, so got to have a little chat with her.
Terrifying.
She is so cool to talk to. Like so humble, so down to earth, like so cool. Just can't praise that enough. I'm glad I finally got to share that story. So there's definitely a long list I can go into, but like as far as the past goes, from childhood to teenhood to adulthood, those are the names that stick out the most.
That's awesome. I mean, I think what's really cool is like you clearly have a love of the sport, but also really understand the mechanics of it. And like all the wrestlers that you mentioned, I can see aspects in your personality, in your ring presence, in your performance. Like it's funny you talk about John Cena and how people thought he was overhyped. I saw through that so early on, and there's a reason that folks like him and The Rock and so many others go on to be really successful actors. And it's because it's all the things you said, right? Like they are performers and they are good at performing on every level. I think that while I love the physicality of wrestling and I love hardcore matches and folks manhandle each other and like really throw each other around, I think my favorite matches and my favorite parts of wrestling, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, is when I can be in on the act, when I can be a part of the performance, right? Because the physicality is great, but the performance, the actual engagement with the audience, with the other wrestlers, like I think that's some of the really fun stuff to watch.
Matt, it's almost like you're saying that you appreciate the moments over the moves of wrestling. It's almost like you're saying that, and it's almost like that's an important takeaway to think about when it comes to wrestling.
Well, yeah, that's what wrestling is. Like,
yeah,
it's moments over moves. Like Jake's always putting this into us, moments over moves, and I very much believe that. I'm at a point now, especially if I'm a bad guy, like I want to get the crowd as in on this as possible. I'll talk smack to that little kid that's in the corner. I will, like, if they're chanting something at me, I will freaking like do a hand puppet thingamajig, just like, oh, you're booing me, blah 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 blah. It's like, so audience engagement is very important in this. You can, if the crowd is into this, if they are really hyped about this, there's not a lot of examples of this, but there are definitely moments where you could just stand around the ring, listen to the crowd chant, and that's all you need. That's what people will remember most. If it's a promo and you talk, people aren't going to remember that as most as how they felt in that moment. Like, most recent example, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber. There was a solid 2 minutes at the very beginning, and more if you count the entrances. The audience were the main characters for a minute. You felt how they were feeling, who they wanted to see come out of this, what they were hoping for, what was on the line. So the audience is just, they're the most important things about this. Without them, you and I wouldn't be able to do this type of stuff. The guys up there wouldn't be able to do this type of stuff. So definitely not something to take for granted.
Yeah.
CJ, I am curious. Look at me go asking questions like a real interview. Ooh, what's happening?
Have at it.
Obviously, like, there's a lot to take in and borrow and be inspired from through actual professional wrestling. But what pieces of media or art forms have you found also sort of like influence like what you're doing in the ring or like what you're wearing to the ring? Like, has anything sort of like come across where you're just like, I gotta integrate that into like what I do as a wrestler or like who I am or how I look?
Yeah.
Tell me
Absolutely.
about the other things that you're into.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely taking a lot of influence outside the wrestling world. My wrestling nickname, the One Winged Dragon, that was directly inspired by Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, the One Winged
Sure.
Angel. I always wanted to have a dragon-based nickname, and I couldn't really think of anything. And then the pandemic happened, couldn't go anywhere. Good time to catch up on some video games. Can't go to work, so what else? What else is there? And I just played that. I immediately fell in love with this game. All these characters, Cloud Strife, who I've cosplayed as before, Tifa Lockhart, who I directly based a new set of gear on. You see that white pair of gear I have and the gloves? That's Tifa. But Sephiroth, the One-Winged Angel, when I was looking for a dragon nickname, and that's the thing, I knew about those characters before it, but it wasn't until the remake came out that I actually like started investing time into it. I could go on about my connection to Final Fantasy VII, but I'll keep it short here. I just played that game, and the name One Winged Dragon just came to me, and that's what I've been running with. And outside of that, I'm also taking a lot of influence from a lot of animes. I'm always like trying to, especially when I'm a babyface, I always want to get that like power of friendship like comeback that you see in Dragon Ball whenever they go Super Saiyan. My Hero Academia when he taps into one for all. No, one for all. Yeah, I almost said all for one. But yeah, there's that. Full Metal Alchemist. I very much borrow a lot from Edward Elric. When I'm a bad guy, it's vice versa. I'll take influence from guys like Bakugo. If I'm trash talking, then I'll probably take after Mushu from Mulan. I just love that character. I'll anytime you hear me do that crazy cackle that I'm always doing, I'm directly tapping into the Joker, specifically Mark Hamill's Joker. Just Joker as a whole is one of my favorite characters. Not Jared Leto, but just the best incarnations of Joker. Like, those are characters that just like really, really inspired me from an in-ring perspective, from a character perspective. My character I've been running with as Pro Wrestling Magic, just being driven more and more off the deep end. A lot of it comes from a combination of Arthur Fleck. A lot of it comes from Heath Ledger's portrayal. Little bit of Jack Nicholson. But yeah, especially like the laugh. That's coming from Mark Hamill. That's what I'm always trying to replicate. Just Mark Hamill is just such an amazing actor. I can't praise that guy enough. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of influence coming up. I'm having a new set of gear made that's based on a certain character from a certain line of comic books. Won't say who it is, but when you'll see it eventually, you'll probably be one of the first to see it, Rachel.
Hell yeah.
But I won't say what it is now. So yeah, I think like very much it's important to think about characters and other source materials that really resonate with you and try to carry that through your performance and see if how many other people it resonates, just because it gives you an idea of what audiences are looking for and what connects with them. Because we always look to fictional characters or even like real life people as sources of inspiration. Like certain characters just they make a connection with you than actual human beings ever will. So it's very important to like tap into that. Like be like that anime protagonist or antagonist that people love so much. Bring that to life. Be that be Batman, be the Joker, be Superman, be Lex Luthor. Just find this stuff. Be Cloud Stripe, be Sephiroth. Like really find this type of stuff. Think about why it works with you and project that onto the audience.
I love that answer. That's great. Yeah, I think that ultimately when trying to entertain, you tap into like what you've seen before, you consciously or unconsciously, and I think that we're all kind of walking amalgams of the things we love, right? Ultimately,
steal and repurpose your favorite things and make them work for you. It's fine. That's how human make art. Human make art by taking art from before and make new art with that art.
Yeah, you're pretty much taking other people's old work and you're reinterpreting it for a new generation or giving your own little spin on it. That's what Disney's been doing for a century now. That's what a lot of mangas have been doing. You know, you could look at Naruto, and there's definitely a lot of Dragon Ball influence, but it doesn't feel like a ripoff. It feels like its own thing.
Yeah, totally. Well, this was such a fun conversation. CJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
been
you, guys.
So awesome to have you here. Before we wrap up, I would love for you to tell folks where they can find you online.
Yeah, so they can see this mysterious gear you've teased us with.
But let them know where they can find you online and maybe check out your work. If there's any shows coming up, this will be out this coming Monday. So, feel free to plug away.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and now on TikTok at Chris Ryan OWD. As far as everything else goes, as of now, my bookings have been a little I'm trying to work on other stuff on the side, but yeah, I do have a not for the rest of the month. I don't have anything currently scheduled, but if something comes up, you'll definitely hear about it. I'll plug it. But until then, just thank you for the support. If anyone out there watching this has been following me, thank you so much for the support, and see you down the road. I don't make promises I can't keep.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, before we get out of here, Rachel, we should thank some people.
Yes. Thank you so very much to John Presnell for the use of the song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Remble. A bop, a smash, a jam even.
Yes, one of the best theme songs ever because it's ours.
Because it's ours.
Because it's ours.
Because we love it. And that's why it's the best.
Exactly. Also, thank you to the incredible Katie Bug who designed our awesome show art. We love it.
Because it's the best.
Because it's the best. And also thank you to the incredible Kate Bacon who designed our episode art.
Never. He's
no, you can't.
The worst.
He's the worst.
He's the worst.
Well, he's the worst, but he makes our individual episode show art, and so we'll thank him
I definitely don't appreciate him deeply. I'm definitely going to bust his head wide open this Saturday.
This Saturday?
No.
What if he's busy this Saturday?
Oh, you're right. I didn't schedule that with him. Eventually. on some future Saturday.
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna get him.
Ominous.
I'm gonna get his ass.
Ominous.
As you can see, I've had quite the influence on them.
Yes. And also, probably we should thank our podcast network.
Thank you so much to the Certain Point of View Podcast Network. You can find all of the shows that we have at certainpov.com. I said them all last week, and I will not say them again.
Fair enough.
The bit is dead.
The bit
Long
is dead.
live whatever new dumb bit happens.
Comes
here.
next. Yeah, it's a matter of time.
Maybe it's me going, it's the best. It's the worst.
Also, if you'd be kind enough to rate and review us, there are links in the show notes to Apple Podcasts so you can rate and review us.
Yeah.
There's links to our social media. There are links to our Discord server. Please come hang out with us, chat with us.
Hack whatever you're listening to this on and give us 6 stars.
Exactly.
Take that.
More than 5.
Definitely.
Take
More
that.
than 4, more than 5. Break your phone to give us 6 stars.
There it is. And, oh, wait, before I thank the last thank you, we do have to do the most important thing. Rachel, it's time to ask our guest the final question.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Ooh, okay.
Hot seat time. Here we go. So, CJ, if you could choose any one storytelling trope that has made its way into film and television that you could make be instantly and magically real in your life, which trope would you choose?
That's a good one. I guess off the top of my head, probably the underdog story. Probably just like that
Yeah.
rise to the top, you coming over adversity. Just showing that for all the tough times, you can come out on top. That's very much a story that resonates with me. That's something I feel like I base my whole career on, a lot of aspects of my life on. And I would really hope one day to show people that it's possible. If you want bad enough, you work hard enough. I know it's cliche. I know saying it's cliche, but it's possible.
I love that. It's a classic.
Yeah.
Cliche or not, it's a classic. So
Yeah.
It's
I'm on board
honestly,
with it.
it's easier to attain than secret magical door to another world. You know,
That's
that
true.
one I want. That's never gonna happen.
Yeah. To quote
I'm
Fullmetal
crushed.
Alchemist, if there isn't a door, make one.
There you go. Well, thank you again, CJ, for joining
Thanks,
us. This was so
CJ.
much fun. We were so happy to have you.
It's fun for me. Thank you guys.
And also, I need to thank my brilliant, pink-haired, stunning, and a vivacious co-host, the one and only Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I need to thank my I am haunted co-host, Matt, aka Stormageddon. The
Wow, that worked
spookiest.
better than I anticipated, to be honest.
Oh no! Sometimes that bit.
Sometimes.
That'll get you.
That'll get you. Of course, we also want to thank our incredible audience. Thank you for being here every 2 weeks and hanging out with us. We adore you, and we will see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere. Bye-bye.
Aurora, 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 Aurora. Metal to magnet, she will be mine. Aurora.
Hello, wonderful listener. Pat Edwards here, co-host of the Let's Rewatch podcast on this very network. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an author and a game designer. Specifically, I work in the tabletop role-playing gaming industry. Well, I recently co-founded a production studio called Storytellers Forge. Our first big book launch has arrived. The Black Ballad is a brutal and bloody TTRPG adventure that answers the question, what happens when the heroes die? Easily adaptable to multiple gaming systems, including 5th edition D&D, The Black Ballad is the perfect campaign to start after a total party kill. We are immensely proud of this epic tome and have assembled a stellar team of collaborators. The Black Ballad features a soundtrack by Diamorte, downloadable NPC audio snippets recorded by Carlos Ferro from Gears of War and Assassin's Creed, and some truly gorgeous illustrations spearheaded by our art director James Masingo from Borderlands 2 and Shadowrun. Our crowdfunding campaign goes live March 7th on BackerKit, and I would be grateful beyond measure if you would consider ordering a copy of The Black Ballad today.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.